On April 18, 1955, at 1:15 in the morning, the greatest mind of the 20th century, Albert Einstein, whispered his final words. The nurse, standing beside him, heard every syllable, but she couldn't understand a single word, because Albert Einstein spoke in German, and the American nurse, Alberta Rosell, did not speak the language. His last message to humanity, lost forever, in translation. Or was it? What if those words weren't meant for her at all? What if they were meant for you, for everyone, who would one day wonder what the man who unlocked the secrets of the universe truly understood about life, death, and everything that comes after? Today, we're going to reconstruct that message, not through speculation, but through the documented words, letters, and revelations that Einstein left behind in the weeks and months before his death. Because while his final whisper may be lost, his final message is not, and what it reveals will change the way you think about your own existence. If this is your first time here, know this. This channel explores the deepest questions Einstein ever asked about God, consciousness, death, and the true nature of reality. If that resonates with you, consider subscribing so you don't miss what comes next. Let's begin with the night he died. The date was April 17th, 1955. Einstein was 76 years old. He'd been living with an aortic aneurysm since 1948, when surgeons had reinforced the weakened blood vessel during exploratory surgery. For 7 years, he carried what his doctor called a time bomb in his abdomen. That evening, the aneurysm ruptured. Einstein was rushed to Princeton University Hospital in New Jersey. The doctors knew immediately that without emergency surgery, he would die within hours. They urged him to consent to the operation. There was still a chance, but Einstein refused. And here's where we find the first piece of his final message. When the doctors pressed him, Einstein said something that has been documented in multiple sources, including the Princeton University press account of his final days. He said, and these are his exact words, "I want to go. When I want, it is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. I will do it, elegantly." Stop and consider what he was saying. The man who had spent his entire life seeking answers, who had refused to accept uncertainty in physics, who had famously declared that God does not play dice with the universe. This man was not afraid of death. He was ready for it. "I will do it, elegantly." What kind of person faces the end of their existence with such calm certainty, unless they know something the rest of us do not? To understand why Einstein was so calm, we need to go back to the beginning, back to when he was 12 years old and experienced something that would shape his entire life. Young Albert Einstein was raised in a non-observant Jewish household. His parents did not practice religion, but at school, he was exposed to religious education, and something unexpected happened. Einstein became deeply religious. He composed songs to God. He refused to eat pork. He followed Jewish dietary laws with a fervor that surprised his family. And then, suddenly, it ended. Einstein began reading science books. He discovered that the stories in the Bible could not be literally true, and something inside him shattered. He later described this experience as his first great rebellion, the realization that he'd been deceived, that what he'd been told about reality was wrong. But here's the crucial detail that most people miss. Einstein did not become an atheist. He did not reject the divine. Instead, He replaced the personal God of his childhood with something far greater, a sense of awe and wonder at the mathematical order underlying the universe, what he would later call the cosmic religious feeling. This is a direct quote from Einstein. The cosmic religious feeling is the strongest and noblest motive for scientific research. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science, and whoever does not know it and can no longer wonder, no longer marvel, is as good as dead. Einstein spent the next 6 decades chasing this feeling, seeking the mathematical patterns that reveal the universal intelligence, not a personal God, not a God who answers prayers, but the God hidden in equations, the God revealed in the elegant laws of physics. And by the time he lay dying in that hospital bed, he had found more of that God than any human being before him. The hours that followed were remarkable. Despite being in intense pain, Einstein continued working. When his secretary, Helen Dukas, came to check on him during the night, he told her something that has also been documented. He said, "You are really hysterical. I have to pass on sometime, and it does not really matter. When? It does not really matter. When?" Think about what those words mean. For most people, as death is the end, the termination of everything, the moment after which there is nothing. But Einstein spoke as if the timing was irrelevant, as if when he died had no real significance at all. Why? Because Einstein had spent decades developing a theory that few people truly understand, a theory that suggests something extraordinary about the nature of time itself. And this brings us to the second piece of his final message, a letter he wrote exactly 28 days before he died. A letter that has been preserved, translated, and studied by physicists and philosophers ever since. On March 15, 1955, Einstein received devastating news. His closest friend, Mike Besso, had died. Mike was the man Einstein called the best sounding board in Europe, the friend who had helped him work through the theory of special relativity. Decades earlier, they had known each other since their university days in Switzerland. 6 days later, on March 21st, Einstein wrote a letter of condolence to the Besso family. And in that letter, he included a statement that reveals what Einstein truly believed about death. He wrote, "Now he has departed from this strange world, a little ahead of me, so that signifies nothing. For those of us who believe in physics, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Read that again. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Einstein was not offering comfort through metaphor. He was not speaking poetically. He was stating what he believed to be a scientific fact. That time, as we experience it, is not real. That the past still exists. That the future already exists. And that death is not the end of existence, but merely a transition in perspective. This concept is known to physicists as the block universe. And while it may sound like science fiction, it's a direct consequence of Einstein's own theory of relativity. Here's what it means in simple terms. We experience time as a flow. The past is gone. The present is now. The future hasn't happened yet, but according to Einstein's equations, this is an illusion created by our consciousness. In reality, every moment that has ever existed, or will ever exist, is equally real. The past isn't gone, it's still there. The future isn't waiting to happen. It already exists. Imagine a movie on a film reel. When you watch the movie, you experience the story, moment by moment, the beginning, the middle, the end. But the entire film already exists on the reel. Every frame is equally real. You're just experiencing them, one at a time. According to Einstein, the universe works the same way. Your birth, your death, and every moment in between all exist simultaneously. You're experiencing them in sequence because of the way your consciousness moves through time. But they're all equally real, all equally now. This is why Einstein wrote that Mike Besso's death signified nothing, not because he didn't care, but because he understood that Mike Besso still existed in the block of space-time. The moment of his death was one frame in an infinite film, but all the other frames, every moment of his life, still existed, just as they always had. And if this is true, then death is not the end. It's simply the end of one trajectory, through the block. The moments of your life do not disappear when you die. They remain eternally present in the structure of space-time itself. This is what Einstein was trying to tell us, but there's more. In the early hours of April 18th, as his body was failing, Einstein continued to work. When the nurse discovered his bed after his death, she found something remarkable. 9 pages of handwritten equations, scrawled on yellow paper, with a pencil. Even as he was dying, Einstein was still trying to solve the mystery that had consumed the final decades of his life. What was he working on? The unified field theory, Einstein's attempt to merge all the forces of the universe into a single mathematical framework, a theory that would explain not just how the universe works, but why it exists at all. A theory that, many believe, would have revealed the universal intelligence. Einstein once said that he wanted to know how the universal intelligence had created this world. He said he wasn't interested in this or that phenomenon. He wanted to know the universal intelligence's thoughts. The rest, he said, were details. This wasn't a casual statement. Einstein believed that behind the apparent chaos of the universe, there was an underlying order, a mathematical structure, so elegant, so perfect, that it could only be described as divine. He called this the sense of awe and wonder, the overwhelming sense of awe that comes from recognizing the harmony in the laws of nature. And here's the critical point. Einstein did not believe in a personal God. He rejected the idea of a deity who answers prayers, intervenes in human affairs, or judges souls after death. But he absolutely believed in something greater, something he often referred to using the philosophy of Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza was a 17th century philosopher who proposed that the universal intelligence and nature are the same thing, not a being separate from the universe, but the universe itself. Every law of physics, every force of nature, every particle and wave is an expression of this fundamental unity. Einstein once said, "I believe in Spinoza's universal intelligence, who reveals himself in the lawful harmony of all that exists, not in a God who concerns himself with the fate and doings of mankind." In 1954, just 1 year before his death, Einstein wrote what has become known as the Universal Intelligence Letter. This handwritten letter, which later sold at auction for nearly $3 million, contains Einstein's most explicit statement about his beliefs. In that letter, Einstein wrote that the word God is for him nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses. He said the Bible is a collection of honorable but primitive legends. But then he added something crucial. He said that he does not believe in a personal God, but the underlying order of the universe is something he reveres, something that fills him with wonder and humility. This isn't atheism. This is a different kind of faith, a faith in the mathematical structure of reality itself, a faith that the universe is comprehensible, a faith that, behind the apparent randomness of existence, there are patterns waiting to be discovered. And Einstein believed he had found some of those patterns. His equations showed that space and time are woven together, that energy and matter are two forms of the same thing, that gravity is not a force, but a curvature in the fabric of space-time itself. These weren't just scientific discoveries. To Einstein, they were glimpses of the divine, evidence that the universe is not random or meaningless, but beautifully, mathematically, elegantly designed. This is the third piece of his final message. We are not separate from the universe. We are expressions of it. The same forces that created the stars created you. The same laws that govern the movement of galaxies govern the firing of neurons in your brain. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself. And if the universe is eternal, what does that say about you? In 1950, 5 years before his death, Einstein wrote another letter that has become famous among those who study his philosophy. It was a letter to a grieving father named Robert Miller, who had written to Einstein after losing his son. In that letter, Einstein wrote something that reveals the depth of his understanding. He said, "A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. The optical delusion of consciousness." Einstein was saying that our sense of being separate individuals, isolated in our own minds, cut off from the rest of existence, this is an illusion, a persistent one, certainly, but an illusion nonetheless. The reality, according to Einstein, is that we are all connected, not in some vague, spiritual sense, but physically, fundamentally, at the deepest level of existence. The atoms in your body were forged in the cores of ancient stars. The energy that powers your thoughts has existed since the beginning of time. You are not a separate thing, floating through an indifferent universe. You are the universe itself, temporarily concentrated into the form of a human being. And this is why Einstein faced death with such serenity. He understood that what we call death is simply the dissolution of one particular pattern. The atoms that make up your body will return to the universe, recombining into new forms. The energy that animates your consciousness will continue, transformed but never destroyed, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form. You are not going anywhere when you die. You are already everywhere. This is the message Einstein was trying to leave us. Now, let us return to that hospital room one final time. It is 1:15 in the morning on April 18th, 1955. Einstein's breathing has become labored. The nurse, Amy Johnson, is standing beside him. She notices the change, the slowing, the final struggle, and then Einstein speaks. His lips move, words come out, German words that Amy cannot understand. What did he say? We will never know with certainty, but consider everything he had written in the weeks and months before. Consider what he had dedicated his entire life to understanding. Consider what he believed about time, about consciousness, about the fundamental unity of all existence. If Einstein wanted to leave one final message for humanity, what would it be? Perhaps it was this, that death is not what you think it is, that the distinction between past, present, and future is an illusion, that you are not a separate being, but a part of something infinite, that the fear you carry about your own mortality is based on a misunderstanding of reality. Perhaps he was saying, do not be afraid, you have always existed, you will always exist. You are the universe itself, experiencing this particular moment in this particular form. And when this form ends, you will continue in ways you cannot currently imagine. Or perhaps, in those final moments, Einstein simply said goodbye in his mother tongue, the language of his childhood, rising instinctively as his consciousness prepared to transition into whatever comes next. There is scientific research on why dying people often return to their native language. Studies have shown that when the brain is under extreme stress, when consciousness begins to fade, people revert to the language they learned first, the language of their mother, the language of their earliest memories. Einstein left Germany in 1933, fleeing the Nazi regime. He spent the last 22 years of his life in America, speaking English daily. But German was the language of his childhood in Munich, the language in which he first learned to think, the language of his mother, Pauline, who died in 1920, the language of his first wife, Mileva, with whom he had discussed the theory of relativity in their youth. When the end came, perhaps something deep in Einstein's consciousness was returning home, to the language of his origins, to the words that had shaped his earliest understanding of the world. And if he was trying to convey something important, he would have reached for those words instinctively. Not the English he had learned later, but the German that was woven into the very structure of his thinking. What did those words contain? A final equation, a revelation about the nature of reality, a message for his children, a prayer to the universal intelligence, a simple expression of peace. We cannot know, but we can know what he taught us. And that teaching is more valuable than any final word could ever be. Einstein showed us that reality is not what it appears to be, that time is an illusion, that separation is a trick of perception, that we are all expressions of a single, unified, mathematically perfect universe, that some call nature and others call universal intelligence. He showed us that the greatest minds are not those who fear death, but those who understand it, who recognize that the end of one story is not the end of existence, that every moment we have ever lived still exists, preserved eternally in the fabric of space-time. And he showed us how to face the unknown with dignity, with curiosity, with the profound confidence that comes from understanding your place in the infinite. I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. I will do it elegantly. These were not the words of a man who was afraid. These were the words of a man who understood. And now that understanding has been passed to you, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. The question is not whether you will die. The question is whether you will understand what death really means before that moment comes. Einstein spent his entire life trying to teach us. The equations on those yellow pages were his final attempt to put it into mathematics. But the truth he was pointing to cannot be captured in symbols alone. It can only be experienced. And perhaps that is the real message he was trying to leave us. Not a statement, but an invitation to see beyond the optical delusion of consciousness, to recognize that you are not a small, fragile, temporary thing in a vast and indifferent universe. You are the universe itself, temporarily taking the form of a questioning mind. And when that form ends, the universe will not end with it. You will continue, different, transformed, but never destroyed. This is what Einstein understood. This is what he was trying to tell that nurse in his final breath, and this is what he would want you to know right now. Do not waste your brief time in this particular form being afraid of the transition. Use it to understand. Use it to connect. Use it to recognize the profound truth that every physicist who has truly understood relativity already knows. You are eternal. Not in some mystical sense, in a physical sense, in a mathematical sense, in the sense that Einstein himself proclaimed when he wrote that the distinction between past, present, and future is only an illusion. The moments you are living right now will never stop existing. They will always be there, woven into the fabric of space-time, eternally real, eternally now. And when your trajectory through this block universe reaches its end, those moments will remain. Every joy you have ever experienced, every love you have ever felt, every sunset you have ever witnessed, they are not memories that will fade. They are moments that exist forever. This is the physics of immortality, not the immortality of your body, but the immortality of your experience, the eternal reality of every moment you have ever lived. There is one more thing Einstein would want you to understand. In 1936, a young girl named Ashley Miller wrote to Einstein, wondering if scientists ever pray. Einstein responded, explaining that a scientist believes in the harmonious laws of nature. But then, he added something profound. He said that anyone deeply involved in scientific pursuits becomes convinced that there's a spirit manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of humankind. A spirit vastly superior to that of humankind. Einstein dedicated his entire life to sensing that spirit. In the equations describing the motion of light, in the curvature of space-time around massive objects, in the quantum behavior of particles at the smallest scales, in the seemingly endless expansion of the universe itself, even as he lay dying at Princeton University Hospital, working on those final, elusive equations, he was still reaching for that spirit, still trying to capture in mathematics the divine order he had sensed since childhood, still pursuing that sense of awe and wonder that had fueled every discovery of his remarkable life. What were his last words? We may never know, but we do know what he dedicated his life to saying. We know the message he left in every letter, every lecture, every groundbreaking equation, that the universe isn't cold and meaningless. It is ordered and beautiful. We are all part of something vastly larger than ourselves, and that the fear of death, the fear of ending, stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what we truly are. We aren't merely temporary beings in an eternal universe. We are expressions of an eternal universe, temporarily experiencing a particular perspective. This is what Einstein knew. This is what he tried to tell us. This is his final message. And now it has reached you. If you're interested in exploring the questions that Einstein dedicated his life to, be sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. There is so much more to discover about the nature of reality, consciousness, and what happens when we die. Leave a comment below and tell me, what do you think Einstein said in those final moments? What would you want to say if you knew your words would be the last thing the world ever heard from you? And remember, as Einstein himself put it, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion, a concept echoed by thinkers like Alan Watts, which means this moment, right now, will exist forever. Make it count.